Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video on the Arrowverse and DCTV in general. Today we're going to be talking about a new report from The Hollywood Reporter that confirms a DCTV show that is in the works has officially moved from HBO Max over to Netflix. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. But before we get into the video, I wanted to give a shout out to our current top tier members of the channel. So shout out to Flash Freak, Bradley, Matthew and Jose. Thanks for supporting the channel, and this is a thing that we're going to be doing in the future to recognize those of you who support by being members of the channel. And if you want to be featured, please be sure to become a member by clicking the join button down below. But for now, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so as we've been talking about for a long time, DCTV is not in a very good place right now, and that is mainly due to the fact that the CW is slowly becoming a place where it's not really going to be the home of DCTV. Traditionally, the CW has been very open to Greg Berlanti's DC projects, but recently they've made it clear that no, they don't want DC projects, and so we've been questioning whereas shows like Superman Lois is going to go if it's going to continue beyond the CW. And so many people naturally go over to HBO Max, and that's because it's run by Warner Brothers. HBO Max, it's the Warner Brothers streaming service pretty much, and it, along with whatever they do in the future in terms of like a new streaming platform they have got planned, is probably going to host a lot of the James Gunn DC Studios TV shows that he is working on. So DCTV isn't dead, but we're talking about the kind of Greg Berlanti CW side of things, which could definitely fit into Elseworlds. And James Gunn and Peter Safran, the heads of DC Studios, has said that they think Superman Lois can go on for a couple more seasons beyond just the season right now. And clearly it would fit into Elseworlds because this version of Superman is not the Superman that you're going to see in the DCEU, in their new reimagined universe that they are building up right now. And obviously they had many big announcements as to their recent slate, but HBO Max, or the new streaming service, is where you will be seeing those TV shows coming out. And so let's go ahead and jump into this article, because this is coming from The Hollywood Reporter, and it's about a Greg Berlanti produced TV show that is moving from HBO Max to Netflix. And so this is how it goes. Dead Boy Detectives, which is the DCTV show in question, is moving platforms. The DC drama has been sold from HBO Max, the streaming service that developed the show, to Netflix. Producers Warner Bros. TV shopped the drama after sources say the series didn't fit with the new chapter of content that DC executives James Gunn and Peter Safran are building for the comic book powerhouse. That plan includes 5 interconnected shows that will live alongside Peacemaker on HBO Max. Also contributing to the show's move between platforms is the fact that HBO Max would not have been able to market the show until 2024, with execs at the streamer blessing producers to take the show elsewhere. And so Dead Boy Detectives joins the fellow Greg Berlanti produced drama You at Netflix after Warner's, where the prolific producer is based, with a rich overall deal, shopped the latter following its failure to cut through on basic cable network Lifetime. The creator of the TV show Flight Attendant, alongside Beth Schwartz from Arrow, is the executive producers on this project. It follows 2 dead British teenagers named Edwin Payne and Charles Rowland in the series that is described as a fresh take on a ghost story that explores loss, grief and death through the lens of Edwin Payne and Charles Rowland and their very alive friend Crystal Palace, which I think is very funny because Crystal Palace is a place in London and it's also a very popular football team. Anyway, so it's a lot like a vintage detective series, only darker and on acid apparently. So that's all they talk about in terms of Dead Boy Detectives, which is, once again, I have to emphasize this, a Greg Berlanti show from one of the last producers and showrunners of Arrow, Beth Schwartz, and it's linked with Warner Brothers and Berlanti Productions. So that very much so fits it into our world of TV shows, plus it is based on a DC Comics story. Now, I have to admit, I don't know much about Dead Boy Detectives, and I'm sure there is quite a lot of you out there that have probably not heard of them. However, if you have read The Sandman in any way, which funnily enough also got a TV show recently on Netflix, I'm sure many of you guys watched it. It was actually a pretty good show. The characters first show up in a Sandman comic, and they are ghosts of two dead children who, rather than enter the afterlife, stay on Earth to become detectives investigating crimes involving the supernatural. Now, I have to say, this would be really, really great if it was involved in the Sandman universe in some way. I would love if there was some sort of connection, especially since they're both at Netflix now. I know Dead Boy Detectives wasn't originally intended to be a Netflix show, but it is now, so maybe they figure out a way to somehow involve the two shows, and I think people would really like that. Also, the characters Roland and Payne have also shown up in Doom Patrol before, so these aren't new characters to some of you guys for sure, and it's definitely not a new character to Greg Berlanti because he produced Doom Patrol as well. So I think, given the Sandman connection, I believe that is why Netflix has actually gone ahead and bought them, because if there is any future seasons, they can definitely link them together. Plus, we know Sandman is getting a season 2, so I think that just makes complete sense. And I think it was just like an extra thing that it didn't fit into James Gunn and Peter Safran's vision for the future of DC, which I don't think is anything against the show. I don't think that reflects on its quality in any way. It's just not the kind of show that they are trying to do in their DC universe. Plus, also, it's mentioned in the article that they wouldn't have been able to release it until 2024 because they have a pretty packed schedule, it seems. So at least this way, maybe with them moving to Netflix, it's able to release earlier. But let's go ahead and talk about the implications of a DC TV show moving from HBO Max or moving from anywhere to Netflix. Could this be them setting a precedent for buying more DC TV shows in the future? Now, obviously, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the biggest DC TV show of them all currently right now that is going to be potentially continuing, and that is, of course, Superman Lois, because we don't know what is going on with Superman Lois in the future. Yes, James Gunn did say that he thinks the show will go on for a couple more seasons, but he has no power over that, and that's just a public suggestion that he has made, which I think definitely helps Superman Lois's standing, but he doesn't actually have any say at all. So if the CW is going to be properly done and finished with the Arrowverse and DCTV in general sometime in the next year or so, so beyond the current seasons and into the next season, if Superman Lois is cancelled or shopped elsewhere in order to continue as a show, do I think that Netflix is a possibility? Now, I would have to say yeah. If there was any interest in continuing Superman Lois, and if Warner Brothers allowed Superman Lois to be shopped around instead of being cancelled or having to end at an early stage over at the CW, I think if they have any senses about them, they would take it for themselves at HBO Max, or they would personally sell it along with Berlanti Productions, who obviously produced Superman Lois, to somewhere like Netflix, because Netflix is going to do them a really good deal, and they are going to be licensing the Superman and Lois characters, which are going to be a hefty fee, but I think it's definitely worth it for Netflix. And so that's going to be at least somewhat profitable for the show. I don't know how much it costs to make Superman Lois. We have heard figures in the millions for individual episodes. But you have to remember that Netflix is a huge company, and yes, buying Dead Boy Detectives is going to be a lot less than buying something like Superman Lois, but I think it definitely sets up a precedent for it happening again. And the fact that Greg Berlanti has a very good working relationship with Netflix, he has You over at Netflix, which is one of the most popular Netflix scripted originals at the moment, is great. Plus, he also has now Dead Boy Detectives, and he's had various other projects over on Netflix, and even the Arrowverse has connections to Netflix, because in some countries they used to sell the shows after they finished their seasons airing on the CW over to Netflix, and since they brought in HBO Max, that deal actually ended, and that's one of the reasons why the CW was actually sold, because it was just not profitable in any way for the network. and I believe them selling their shows to Netflix after was a lot of licensing money that Warner Brothers would be paid. So with the streaming wars starting like a couple of years ago, they really kind of shot themselves in the foot in terms of the CW, because they valued having a good streaming service where they could get actual customers watching their projects on their own service over making a bunch of money by selling it to other companies who would definitely value the projects, plus you would get paid for it. So that's why it's good to have a deal like they did previously over at Netflix. And so in conclusion, do I actually think that Superman Lois beyond season 3 is going to be cancelled or the show's going to end? I think it's kind of 50-50 right now. Obviously, there was quite a lot of false hope when James Gunn came out with those comments, because I think a lot of people mistakenly thought he had more power than he actually has over Superman Lois just because it's a DC show. It's not true. Yes, it is a Warner Brothers production and it's a Berlanti production, but James Gunn is in control of that. Plus, also, CW has been taken over by a majority stakeholder now, that is Nexstar, and they are trying to pivot the network in order to become profitable, and they are throwing away their fictional content in order to get more profitable projects up on TV. And so the Arrowverse has been a casualty of that over the last year or so since they acquired the CW. And so for now, looking forward to Dead Boy Detectives over on Netflix, and hopefully we see more DC projects over on Netflix in the next few years. It's great that we got the Sandman there already, plus it's getting a season 2 and Dead Boy Detectives going to be joining it. So you can only hope that a show like Superman Lois can continue on another network, and I really don't think the CW is a safe place for a show like Superman Lois anymore, because they clearly don't value the show in any way. So if I was Todd Helbing and Greg Berlanti and Warner Brothers, I'd be looking for another place to call home for Superman Lois in order to continue the show, because I think it's a amazing show and I think they know that for sure. So that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It really helps out the video to get it out there so people can get it in their recommendations. Also, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. We are uploading daily right now, so please be sure to stay tuned. And also, we'll be live streaming tomorrow just before The Flash airs its next episode, along with some special guests. So for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see room.